Outlaw Sports is brought to you by Molson Canadian, made from Canada, and Rocky Mountain Barbecue, Alberta barbecue cuisine at its best.
Welcome to the show. Mike Lonsborough, Ian Busby of the Calgary Sun. And Ian, the CFL awards are coming down the pipe. And one thing I wanted to talk to you about, who's going to be the MVP from the Calgary Stampeders? I mean, personally, when I saw what Nick Lewis did at the early part of the year, he kept that team alive. Without Nick Lewis, I think this team would have been in big, big trouble. But John Cornish, to me, has been the best player in the CFL, period. So, but he might not even win the top Canadian, let alone the top MVP award.
It's an interesting scenario because we shouldn't disqualify John Cornish just because he's Canadian. But when you come down to the voting works like this. You vote at a team level first, and there's 7 voters in each market, and they decide the team nominees. So those nominees go to the division, and then you decide the division nominees, and then you go to East-West, and you decide that way. Last year, I thought the clear-cut MVP, most outstanding player of this league, was Jamel Richardson, except 4 voters in Montreal picked Anthony Calvillo instead. So I had no chance to vote for the guy I thought should have won the MLP award. So we have a tough decision to make here in this market. I'm one of the voters. We have to vote on all 6 categories and pick the team nominee. Well, right now, I don't know who it should be. Nick Lewis has had an outstanding year. He keeps getting better and better. He's leading the lead in yak yards for receivers. He's leading the league in second down catches. He's been amazing. He's had a really hot start with touchdowns, and then he cooled off a little bit. But when they need a big play, they go to Nick Lewis, especially, obviously in the passing game. But John Cornish is leading the league in rushing. He's given this team a real boost in the middle part of the season when they thought, this was going to be a key part of the year, and he went, a stretch of 5 to 7 games where he was absolutely amazing every other week, putting up 450-yard plus games rushing the ball. They really ground out teams' defenses and won that way. That win in Saskatchewan was all him. The offensive line did a pretty good job, but even when he was caught in the backfield, he pushed for extra yardage. He got that win for them. That's the difference between them clinching second at this point in the year and having it up in the air.
And another thing.
So where do you go? And then some would argue that Kevin Glenn has done an amazing job coming in off the bench, giving this team some victories. He's got 9 victories as a starter, which is amazing for Kevin Glenn. He's never been more than a 500 quarterback in his career. He's 9-5 as a starter this year, and he's done everything asked of him. So,
yeah, but you can't see him as your MVP, can you?
Not above the other 2 guys. So it's a tough choice, and I think it's basically going to have to come down to: do you think that John Cornish should be eligible to win the MOP award and the top Canadian award?
Why not?
And I think he should be able to.
Absolutely.
Because, as you said, he's not a shoo-in for top Canadian. Andrew Harris has more yards from scrimmage than any guy in the league, and he set the record for Canadian player yards from scrimmage. Now, Cornish only needs a few yards to get over Terry Evanson's mark from 1967. So they both had amazing years. That one's going to be a toss-up as well. It's the old Moneyball saying when they're asking players about, does it matter if he walks or gets a single to get to first base? No, it doesn't matter. Well, does it matter if John Cornish or Andrew Harris get the ball handed to them or through a pass? No, it does not matter. So most yards from scrimmage, there's an argument to be made that he's the most valuable if he gets the most yards from scrimmage.
Boy, and I really, when the first part of the year when he got that -1 yards against BC, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was against BC.
And then he snapped. And he started accusing everybody. I said, oh, my God, this isn't what I thought this guy was all about. But the composure they had and the way he handled everything, except the full moon in Saskatchewan, is that incredible?
There's been hundreds of players who've wanted to do that in Saskatchewan, and most have resisted that urge. John just didn't resist that urge for a minute. Well, he's had some pants problems this year. His pants have come down a few times, but when you got defensive linemen dragging on your pants and you're still going forward, sometimes that happens. So
you just print that and go with it.
Yeah, and he turned himself right around at that bye week. Right after that -1 game, went into the bye week. Things could have gone in a complete tailspin. Instead, he turned it around, came out flying out of the gate. He got a little bit more healthy, but he had a hand problem that he couldn't push off. If you can't push off with your hand, it pretty much ruins you for getting by tackles. He came back and had a great stretch after that, and resiliency has been in the name of the game for this team, and that's an example of one of those things.